High above the harbour town of Whitby, on a windswept headland facing the North Sea, stand the ruins of one of Yorkshire's most dramatic historic buildings. The broken arches of Whitby Abbey have survived religious conflict, Viking settlement, royal ambition, storms, dissolution, war, and more than 1,000 years of coastal weather. Today, visitors see a roofless Gothic ruin silhouetted against the sea. But this site was once home to a powerful religious community whose influence reached far beyond Yorkshire. Its story begins not with the medieval stone abbey, but in Anglo-Saxon England, almost 1,300 years ago. In the 7th century, the Kingdom of Northumbria was one of the most powerful realms in Britain. Christianity was spreading across the region, but it arrived through different traditions. Missionaries connected to Rome worked alongside monks influenced by the Celtic Christian communities of Ireland and Iona. Around the year 657, King Oswiu of Northumbria supported the creation of a monastery on the headland above Whitby. The place was then known as Streamshalch. Its first leader was Hild, the daughter of an Anglian noble family and one of the most influential women in early English Christianity. Hild had already led a religious community at Hartlepool. At Streamshalch, she became abbess of a double monastery containing separate communities of men and women under her authority. The earliest monastery looked nothing like the ruins visible today. Archaeology suggests it was a large and important settlement, but most of its buildings were constructed from timber. There were halls, workshops, accommodation, small religious buildings, agricultural areas, and a cemetery. The community was not isolated from the world. Craftspeople worked with metal, bone, and glass. Farmers cultivated the surrounding land and cared for animals. Monks and nuns prayed, studied religious texts, and educated members of Northumbrian society. Streamshalch enjoyed a close relationship with the royal family. Important nobles visited the monastery, and members of Northumbria's ruling dynasty were buried there. Hild became known for her wisdom, and kings, bishops, and ordinary people reportedly sought her advice. In the year 664, the monastery hosted one of the most important religious meetings in early English history, the Synod of Whitby. At the time, Christians following the Roman and Celtic traditions disagreed about several practices. The most important dispute concerned the method used to calculate the date of Easter. Different calculations meant that members of the same royal household could sometimes celebrate Easter at different times. King Oswiu gathered religious leaders at Hild's monastery to debate the issue. Bishop Coleman defended the traditions associated with Iona, while Wilfrid argued for Roman practice. After listening to both sides, Oswiu supported the Roman calculation. The decision did not instantly unify every Christian community in Britain, but it strengthened Roman influence over the English Church and became an important turning point in its development. Whitby's early monastery was also connected with the beginning of English poetry. According to the historian Bede, a lay worker named Cadman cared for animals belonging to the community. Cadman was unable to sing or compose poetry. During feasts, when a harp was passed from one guest to another, he would leave because he felt embarrassed. One night, after leaving a gathering, Cadman fell asleep near the animals. In his dream, a figure commanded him to sing about the creation of the world. Cadman protested that he could not sing, but when he tried, words came to him. The following morning, he remembered the poem. His gift was reported to Hild, who asked religious scholars to test him. They gave him a passage of scripture, and Cadman transformed it into poetry. He was admitted to the monastery, where he learned biblical stories and composed religious verse in the language of ordinary Anglo-Saxon people. Cadman is now regarded as the first English poet known by name. After Hild died in 680, Streamshalch continued as an important royal and religious centre. Yet the political world around it was changing. Across the North Sea, Scandinavian seafarers were beginning to travel farther in search of wealth, land, and trade. From the late 8th century, Viking raiders attacked monasteries and coastal settlements across northern Britain. Religious sites were attractive targets because they contained valuable metalwork, stored food, and poorly defended buildings. The exact fate of Strianeshulk is uncertain. There is no surviving account describing a single dramatic destruction of the monastery. However, the community was abandoned during the 9th century, probably as a result of Viking attacks, followed by permanent Danish settlement in the region. Its timber buildings deteriorated and disappeared. Roofs collapsed, fields became overgrown, and the once important monastery faded from the landscape. By the Norman Conquest in 1066, the headland appears to have been largely abandoned, although a thriving settlement had developed around Whitby's harbour below. The monastic story began again around 1078. Rainfrid, a former soldier who had become a monk, established a new religious community on the headland. This was no longer an Anglo-Saxon double monastery ruled by an abbess. It became a Benedictine house for men. The first monks may have reused parts of the old settlement or lived in simple timber buildings. Around the year 1100, they began constructing a new stone church and monastery in the Romanesque style. Thick walls, rounded arches, and heavy stone columns replaced the vanished Anglo-Saxon buildings. A large parish church was also constructed nearby, probably on the site of the present Church of St. Mary. Life followed the Benedictine rule. The monks gathered for prayer throughout the day and night. They read religious texts, copied documents, received visitors, and managed the abbey's estates. The monastery owned farmland, grazing land, fisheries, and other properties. Tenants worked its estates, while lay servants, craftspeople, and labourers supported the religious community. Whitby Abbey became part of a wide economic network connecting the coastal settlement with villages and markets across Yorkshire. The sea remained central to life in Whitby. Fishing boats entered the harbour, merchant vessels travelled along the coast, and violent storms struck the exposed headland. From the monastery, the monks could watch ships approaching across the North Sea. By the early 13th century, the Romanesque church was no longer considered large or magnificent enough. Around 1225, the community began rebuilding it in the Gothic style. This was an enormous undertaking. Before construction could proceed, the monks reshaped sections of the headland and created terraces. Stone had to be quarried, transported, and cut by hand. Masons, carpenters, blacksmiths, labourers, and specialised craftsmen worked together for generations. Construction began with the eastern arm of the church, where the most important religious ceremonies took place. Tall, pointed arches, slender columns, and large windows replaced the heavier forms of the earlier building. The transepts and crossing followed, together with a central tower. Wooden scaffolding rose high above the headland. Treadwheel cranes and pulley systems lifted stone, while masons worked on narrow platforms exposed to powerful coastal winds. The new architecture was designed to create height and light. Coloured glass filled the windows, sunlight illuminated the interior, and the completed church must have been visible for many miles from both land and sea. Part of the nave was also constructed, but the abbey's money appears to have run out before the work could be completed. The unfinished building stood for decades while the monks attempted to raise additional funds. In 1338, one monk received permission to travel and collect donations for the building campaign. Work resumed, but progress was slow. The nave was not fully completed until the 15th century, meaning the Gothic abbey took generations to finish. At its height, Whitby Abbey was far more than a church. South of the main building stood cloisters, dormitories, a chapter house, kitchens, storage rooms, workshops, an infirmary, and a refectory where the monks ate together. A bell regulated daily life. The monks rose during the night for prayer and returned to the church repeatedly throughout the day. Meals were eaten according to religious rules, often while one member of the community read aloud. The abbey provided hospitality to travellers and assistance to some of the poor and sick. It also exercised authority over extensive lands and the people living on them. Religion, agriculture, trade, and local government were closely connected. Yet by the 16th century, England's religious world was about to change dramatically. After breaking with the Roman Catholic Church, Henry VIII ordered the closure of monasteries across England and Wales. Royal officials inspected religious houses, assessed their property, and transferred their wealth to the crown. On the 14th of December 1539, Whitby Abbey was dissolved. At that time, the community reportedly included 22 monks, together with servants and other workers. The monks surrendered their monastery and left the buildings that had shaped their daily lives. Valuable objects were removed. Bells, lead, metalwork, furnishings, and other materials could be sold or reused. Without a community to maintain it, the vast Gothic church began to deteriorate. Roof coverings disappeared, timber rotted, and rain entered the interior. Useful stone was taken for other buildings. The cloisters and most of the domestic ranges were almost completely demolished. The property passed to the Cholmondeley family, who became powerful Yorkshire landowners. They adapted part of the former monastic complex into a private residence known as Abbey House. During the English Civil War, Sir Hugh Cholmondeley initially supported Parliament before joining the Royalist cause. In 1645, parliamentary troops captured and looted Abbey House after his surrender at Scarborough Castle. After the war, the family restored its estates. During the 1670s, Sir Hugh Cholmondeley II constructed an ambitious new wing beside the old house. Formal courtyards and gardens transformed the former monastic landscape. The Abbey church itself remained a ruin. With every winter storm, more stone fell. Plants grew between the walls, arches weakened, and the sea wind passed through windows that no longer contained glass. In the late 18th century, the Cholmondeley family moved away. Their grand 17th century wing was damaged by powerful winds and lost its roof. The site now contained two neighbouring ruins, the medieval abbey and the later mansion. During the 18th and 19th centuries, ruined monasteries became fashionable destinations for artists, writers and travellers. Whitby Abbey's position above the sea made it especially dramatic. Painters recorded its arches against changing skies. Visitors climbed the headland to look across the harbour. The contrast between the busy fishing town below and the silent Gothic ruin above created a powerful atmosphere. In July 1890, Irish author Bram Stoker arrived in Whitby for a holiday. He stayed at a guest house on Royal Crescent while working on a new supernatural story. Stoker explored the harbour, library, churchyard and abbey ruins. From the cliffs, he observed the narrow streets, red roofs, old tombstones and dark waters of the North Sea. He learned about a real shipwreck involving the Russian vessel Dmitri, which had run aground near Whitby. He also found the name Dracula in a book in the local library while researching the history of Eastern Europe. In the novel published in 1897, the ship Demeter reaches Whitby during a violent storm. Its crew has vanished. The captain is found dead, and a large black dog leaps from the vessel before running up the steps toward the churchyard and abbey. The ruins became part of the visual world of Dracula. Bram Stoker did not claim that Whitby Abbey was a vampire's castle, but its silhouette, the surrounding graves, circling bats and stormy coastline helped shape some of the novel's most memorable scenes. The abbey soon became inseparable from Whitby's Gothic identity. Yet another chapter of real destruction was still to come. On the morning of 16th December 1914, during the First World War, German warships attacked towns along the Yorkshire and northeast coast. After bombarding Scarborough, vessels opened fire on Whitby. Shells struck the town and headland. Civilians were killed, buildings were damaged, and the abbey's west front was hit. A large section of the already fragile medieval masonry collapsed. The attack caused outrage across Britain. After the war, specialists repaired the damaged abbey using original stones recovered from the collapse. The ruins were placed into state guardianship, allowing systematic conservation to begin. Unstable masonry was strengthened, vegetation removed, and the surviving architecture carefully recorded. Archaeologists also investigated the buried history of the headland. Their discoveries showed that Hild's Anglo-Saxon monastery had been much larger and more complex than once believed. Excavations revealed timber buildings, workshops, burials, pieces of carved stone, and evidence of specialized crafts, including glass production. The findings transformed the understanding of Strienshalk from a small group of religious cells into a major royal settlement. Archaeologists also discovered evidence of human activity on the headland long before the monastery, including a late Bronze Age roundhouse and traces of Roman presence. Coastal erosion has already removed a substantial part of the ancient landscape. Over 2,000 years, the sea may have consumed hundreds of meters of the original headland, taking archaeological evidence with it. Today, English heritage cares for the surviving ruins. Visitors walk through the remains of the Gothic church, stand beneath enormous pointed arches, and look across the harbour toward the modern town. The building no longer has a roof, stained glass, bells, or chanting monks. But its surviving walls reveal the skill of medieval masons and the ambition of a community that continued building for centuries. Whitby Abbey contains many histories at once. It was Hild's royal monastery, the setting of the Synod of Whitby and the home of Cædmon's poetry. It disappeared during the age of Viking settlement and returned as a Norman Benedictine house. It grew into a towering Gothic church, was closed by Henry VIII and became a romantic ruin. It inspired Bram Stoker, survived German shellfire and continues to surrender archaeological evidence. For almost 1,300 years, people have looked toward this headland for religion, authority, beauty, fear, and imagination. When the sun sets behind its broken windows, Whitby Abbey appears almost timeless. But every empty arch marks a part of its journey, from faith to destruction, from abandonment to rediscovery, and from an Anglo-Saxon monastery to one of the most unforgettable landmarks in Yorkshire.